Sure, my name is Martin Greenhow, I'm Managing Director of MOJO. We're a chain of 5 cocktail bars across the north of England.
So we're obviously coming up to an England-wide lockdown, which will force the closure of MOJO in Harrogate. What does that mean in terms of your, for the next 4 weeks? There is been grants available, but how does that benefit you?
Well, I think the first thing to be aware of is really the difference between lockdown and the state of affairs prior to that in the tiers where we were under curfew is kind of like the difference between drowning in salt water and drowning in fresh water. It's kind of irrelevant, you end up dead. The impact of the restrictions and the lockdown to come on businesses are fairly catastrophic. People are aware that support is being provided through the extension of the furlough and beyond that into the job retention scheme. But that does very little, in fact it does next to nothing to support businesses with very real fixed costs. So rent on premises, the grants that are being offered are minuscule. If I give you a real world example here, the building we're in, MOJO Harrogate, our rent is approximately £8,000 a month. The highest tier of grants that are available is £3,000. So obviously those two things don't correlate. Whilst the furlough scheme is there and the staff will, thank God, get 80% of their wage, which for our guys does mean that I'm sure they'll be able to get by on that. But it contributes nothing at all towards the costs of the business for the staff. So the national insurance contributions that we have to continue to make are still there, they're still live. Pension contributions that we're legally obliged to make have to continue. Now, where is a business supposed to find that revenue when we have absolutely zero income? It simply doesn't stack up. So what we're having to do is we're having to borrow a vast sum of money. We're going to be massively in debt. And the final upshot of that is when we finally come out of this, terrible situation we all find ourselves in, our business won't be able to grow. We had very, very significant plans for growth in the coming year. We were planning to open 3 additional units. Now what we've had to do is we've had to borrow to the hilt just to survive. And so the opportunity for growth, the opportunity to develop and in doing so contribute to the exchequer in increased revenue simply disappears. So, all we're doing is we're moving pain from here to there. It's not in the benefits of society at large. We're all going to feel the pain that's going to come from this.
And as a business, have you made any redundancies already?
Luckily, we've not really made any redundancies. We've had quite a lot of natural wastage through part-time staff, many of whom were students or young people who were moving around the country. And in lockdown 1, most of those went home and we simply didn't rehire. We redeployed our full-time staff, changed work patterns and what have you. So we've been lucky there. And to be honest, it's been one of the biggest challenges for the business is to try to make sure we continue to look after our team and keep them in harness. Partly because, we're quite a tight-knit community, quite a tight-knit team, but also selfishly from the business's point of view is we need our guys available to us because the government gives us next to no notice of when they're going to close us down or when they're going to open us again. You need your team available to you so you can start the machine working, as it were. And if you don't have that, there's no work for anybody.
And if the country does come back after 4 weeks, we're still likely to have the 10 p.m. curfew and the table service. Mm-hmm. How's that affected you?
The table service we can cope with. It's not normal for MOJO. I know if you speak to Gabby, who's our GM here, she would say we're not giving people the real experience, and she's right. But we're responsible operators. We'll do what's deemed safe, and we're quite diligent about that. So we can cope with the table service, but the curfew is crippling businesses all over from nightclubs who've never been able to open at all, and I really, my heart breaks for them. But through to restaurants and bars, restaurants are losing a complete service by closing at 10 p.m. We're losing 60% of our operating hours. So we really desperately need that back. And, I don't want to sit here, as it seems that hospitality is having to do, constantly at the moment, playing Oliver to Boris Johnson's Mr. Bumble, saying, please, sir, can we have some more? We don't want to do that. We want to go back to work. But if we're not allowed to have our operating hours back, there's no alternative. We have to have support because hospitality's got 3.2 million employees. Our engrossed supply chain and support chain takes that number to over 4 million people. You know, you're going to see vast swathes of these people appear on the unemployment register, and that hurts the entire country, because that's revenue going out of the Exchequer, not revenue being generated for the Exchequer, and that turns into public services, that turns into, you know, taxation ultimately. You know, everybody ends up worse off.